Okay, well this is going to be the first video, I guess, on my channel, kind of transitioning in a completely different direction from what it used to be. This is probably going to be around for a while, and I don't know if my videos will be regular, but here goes nothing. So this is going to be kind of a transition towards 3D printing, model making, designing, and stuff, manufacturing parts, small parts. As you can see here, these parts are very small. So I recently got a 3D printer, and I looked on the website called Thingiverse, which you can get a lot of free 3D models to download and print, and I got models like this. These were a model that I was trying to make of a planter that we recently purchased here on the farm. And I was making this model for a member of the company, and I was kind of time crunched. I had 2 weeks to design from scratch this model and also print it, which took 53 hours to print everything that you see here, as well as another 11 hours of stuff that I had to reprint, such as this. So this was the original model of the right side wing, the outer wing. I had to print these in 2 parts because my printer is really small. And the first design I came up with, it didn't work. When these would go down and latch onto the arm holding bracket in front of the tank, the wheels first would catch, and then this provided an issue. So I designed these, so it basically gave me more clearance, quite a bit more clearance. As you can see, I put the wheels further out on the arm, which I guess isn't totally dimensionally accurate to the model or to the real machine, but it's the best I could do. And I made this little notch so that when they were sitting on their proper rests, it would latch in place and it wouldn't slide around. However, I realized that notch should be on the underside, and I changed it accordingly and reprinted it yet again. Alright, so here we have the basically a mock-up model of the planter that I originally designed. So these are the version 1 arms here. I didn't implement the updated versions into this model. I just made this to piece together what it would look like before I printed it, as well as you may notice that all of these row units, there's 31 of them, and I believe 16 of them are a longer distance away from the main arms here. So this is the basic SketchUp of what it looks like, and here's the place where the arms would secure onto the chassis. Yeah. So that was I guess the second major build that I worked on, and the first one would be this little guy. So this is a remote control skid steer. Basically 3D printed the whole thing. Other than these rubber tracks, I can't print rubberized materials on my printer yet. I might in the future be able to do that. The rubber tracks I did not. There's a few screws and bolts and some nuts in there, an embedded nut. And there's also 3 servos on the inside of this body. So there's one here driving this track. There's one here at the back driving this track, and there's one in the back here that lifts the arm up and down. And this is on Thingiverse. You can find these files. They're free to download. So as you can see here, the arm lifts up and down, and it's very, very slow and a little bit noisy, but it does drive. And I'm sure you could get it to go faster if you use better servos, but in order to enable the tracks to spin 360 degrees and continuously for it to drive, I had to modify it cut the potentiometer wires so the servo didn't think it was moving. Sorry, here, I'll just try and trim it so it doesn't move. This was the first major build. It didn't have a lot of parts and it wasn't really complicated. There was building instructions for me. I just had to piece together the pieces, obviously. But let me unplug this. There we go. Set that off to the side. But speaking of the RC car chassis, Tom Stanton on YouTube, he 3D prints models, and he used to do some planes and stuff. He's done electric bikes, like bicycles. He recently started developing a compressed air engine that was 3D printed, and I was very interested in this when he started, but his files were not available for free. You had to purchase them. However, he recently decided to release his files for free on Thingiverse, and I was going to print them. But he requires that you have a very small 0.2 millimeter nozzle, and most printers come with 0.4. So as I'm waiting currently for a smaller nozzle, I thought, maybe I'll just print it like this with my nozzle that I have and it'll be okay. And I don't think it really would be. So this is the crankcase. I believe this is the front of the crankcase, and then this is the cylinder and the cylinder head. So I started printing these, and as you can see, the top layers were getting messier and messier. The bottom layer started out fairly nice and even, but the top layers were getting very messy. So I canceled it and decided to wait. But meanwhile, I have designed a chassis for this engine to go in. Hopefully, I obviously don't have a full model of the engine other than digital. So I put it into Fusion 360 and tried measuring points and coming up with a gear to put on the crankshaft, as well as mounting positions similar to this, but it goes directly into the bottom of the crankcase. And then I designed a rear axle with a gear on one of the wheels, as well as a solid front axle on the frame, and wheels to put on the axle. And of course there will be 2 bearings on the rear axle and 1 bearing in each of the front wheels. And this will just be a simple first test, I suppose, if it comes out nice and it works out. But it'll just go straight and it'll run off of a water bottle that'll fill up with compressed air. So let's go take a look at that model.